Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shanity Show. This is a topic I saw quite a bit on BookTok and Bookstagram in mid to late May, and I wanted to kind of bring it here so I could discuss this topic in a little bit more length, because honestly, for me at least, Instagram and TikTok didn't really give me the capability to discuss this at the length I wanted. So here we are on YouTube, on BookTube, talking about it, and that is whether dust jackets are a good thing, a good idea, or not. Also, what some other options might be instead of dust jackets. I think that this whole conversation started on BookTok, at least, by a video. If I can find it, I'll link it down below in the description. But this video asked, what are good reasons to have dust jackets? What are the point of dust jackets? And I also saw a stitch of this video because one of the creators that I follow on BookTok stitched the video agreeing. I don't really have any examples on my bookshelf of hardcover books that have dust jackets and have some sort of special design on the hardcover itself. Some of my hardcovers have some sort of imprint on them under the dust jacket, but none of my hardcovers that actively came with the dust jacket have some sort of special design underneath the dust jacket. But I have 4 examples here as to how they can make dust jackets work and maybe why automatically giving a dust jacket may not necessarily work. So I'm going to focus on the 2 books that have dust jackets and then the other 2 books that don't have dust jackets and kind of talk about why they may work and why they may not work. And I am focusing on book of the month for my hardcovers with dust jackets. First up is a book that I'm currently reading, Wayward by Amelia Hart. And you see, very pretty cover. Back is pretty simple, but again, very pretty. And this is the hardcover itself for Wayward. Very simple, very much book of the month-esque, but this is Wayward. And then this is a book that I finished up recently at the time I'm recording this, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. And this is the dust jacket. Again, very nice front aspect to the cover, spine and back relatively simple. And then this is the hardcover itself for As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. And again, as I said with Wayward, this is very book of the month-esque, or the spine is one color and then the front and back are another color. Very book of the month-esque. And for me, I think I've always liked the idea of dust jackets, but when I'm reading a hardcover book, I always take off the dust jacket, because when I'm holding up a book reading it, I don't feel like I have a very good grip on the book itself with the dust jacket, and it always feels like it's slipping a little bit, and I don't like that. So whenever I have a hardcover that has a dust jacket, I always take off the dust jacket. Now for the 2 books that do not have dust jackets but still have some sort of cover on them, there's this book, Bibliothèque, the unofficial guide to the movies of Studio Ghibli. Bibliothèque sounds nicer, honestly. This is by Michael Leader and Jake Cunningham. And this is a hardcover book. There's no wiggle to it. It still has a cover. It still has basically all the aspects of what hardcovers with dust jackets have, but it's on the hardcover itself. And this is something that I like, that I prefer. The second example, something more simple, is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And again, very simple, something that the dust jacket might have, but it's on the hardcover itself. As I said, for me, it mostly has to do when I'm actively reading the book, and I feel like I don't have a good hold on the book when the dust jacket is still on, so I take off the dust jacket. But I do usually like the imagery, the covers on hardcover books, and a lot of the arguments that have been made are the fact that if you have a hardcover with the dust jacket, you could easily print that cover onto the hardback itself. This cover of Wayward could have easily been printed onto the hardcover itself, and that is something that automatically do for paperbacks, so why can't they just do that for all hardcovers? And something that's been pretty popular recently, especially within the past couple of months that I've noticed, are interchangeable dust jackets, which I think are a very clever idea. Like if you get bored of one dust jacket, then you can switch to another. I think this is highly dependent on 1, the book and how popular it is, and 2, what the hardcover itself looks like. Because for me, I would rather have an optional dust jacket if the hardcover itself already had what the cover originally looked like, or the original publication, kind of like Bibliothèque or this edition of Song of Achilles. Because in that way, if I were to get a little bit tired of those 2 covers, I could easily slip on a dust jacket and put it back on my bookshelf, and then once I get around to reading Bibliothèque or rereading the Song of Achilles, I can just take off the dust jacket and still have a nice cover for when I'm actually reading the books. And when I've discussed this, I haven't made any videos or posts about this on TikTok or Instagram, but when I've talked about this in conversation with other book bookish influencers on TikTok, on Instagram. I bring up how an option could be the hardcover itself, excluding the dust jacket, could have the cover that publishers and authors choose. And then there can be the option of adding on a dust jacket for a fraction of the price if they're buying the book itself, so that they can have the option of a second cover if they so choose. I think a good way to explain this is by using my 6 Crimson Grains book. So there's this cover, which is the US edition, and there's also the UK edition, which I'll put up on the screen right here. If they had printed this cover on the hardcover itself, this is a quick look at what the hardcover looks like, but if they had printed this cover on the hardcover, and then let's say the bookseller like Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you're buying your books, the bookseller could say, do you want to buy the UK cover, the UK dust jacket, at a fraction of the price? And you can say yes or no as the buyer. And when I say fraction of the price, what I mean is they can sell the dust jackets separately for a certain price, like let's say $10 or like $5 to $10 depending on the book. And then if a customer is buying the hardcover with whatever cover is on the book, US edition would be this one, there could be the option to buy a dust jacket as an alternative cover. And in this example, I was using the UK cover as my example of an alternative cover because I really like the UK editions. And I personally think that that argument holds a lot of water, mainly because I know there are a lot of people from the comments that I read on the video that's in the description below. There were a lot of comments from people saying, oh, I just immediately take the dust jackets off, I throw them away, my kids or my pets would tear them apart, you know, so I just don't bother risking it. Which is like, okay, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but at the same time I also understand the arguments of people who like dust jackets because they help protect the book. It's kind of nice to be able to take the dust jacket off and put it on, etc., so on and so forth. And sometimes, you know, you like the feel of the dust jacket and having that look. I understand both sides of the argument is what I was trying to say by that. For the argument specifically of dust jackets protecting the book, I personally think it depends on the context of what exactly the dust jacket is protecting the book from. If you're talking about like crumbs of food or something that's not necessarily going to really affect the book in any big way, then yes, dust jackets protect the book from maybe food you might drop on it real quick, and it protects the actual hardcover from any little stains from food. But if you're talking about something like liquids like water or coffee or tea or any other types of liquids, then that's really like up to chance, because sometimes you might get a splash of your drink or a splash of a liquid onto the dust jacket, and then it'll seep through the dust jacket really quickly and get on the book. And in that instance, no, it did not protect your book from the liquid, because in most cases dust jackets are paper. I don't think I've seen a dust jacket that wasn't paper. In my opinion, I don't think paper can protect a hardback really well from a liquid. The hardback itself for the book can protect the pages of the book itself from liquids, but it doesn't really work in reverse for liquids. That's all I'm going to say on this topic, just because I didn't really have a lot of thoughts to begin with, but I did want to discuss this. Please leave your thoughts on this topic in the comments below, because I would love to have discussions about this in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.